Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for the Caregiver Teleconnection Program. My name is Minerva Villarreal, and I am the Foundation Program Coordinator with the Caregiver SOS. Today's presentation is Ask Dr. Tam Questions with Tam Cummings. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Tam. She founded her company in 2009 with a mission to inspire, educate, and empower dementia caregivers. Now her professional gerontology practice in the Texas Hill Country is recognized as one of the leading educators of dementia caregivers and programs designed to dementia care nationally. Dr. Cummings attended Baylor University, Texas A&M University, and Concordia University. She holds degrees in journalism, social work, and gerontology. And with that, take it away, Tim. And this is sponsored by Vitas Healthcare.
And just, we don't have anybody from Vitas on here that we've seen, but remember, we do.
Hi, I'm Taria. I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay, go ahead, Taria.
Hi, just real briefly, thank you all for having us here today. We're so happy to partner with WellMed and sponsor this education, which is so important for caregivers. Just a brief synopsis on Vitas. We are a hospice provider providing services for end-of-life care for those patients that, for people that are seriously ill, needing support in their homes, in their nursing home, assisted living, wherever they call home. We come to you. We're in 15 states across the U.S. And are happy to support WellMed and any patient services. If you all want information, you can look at vitas.com for more information about where we are, if we're in your area, and if you have questions or would like a evaluation or just a consult, we're happy to come out and just spend time and explain the services and how that would benefit you as a caregiver and your loved one. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Taria. And Taria didn't say this, but as y'all remember, a year ago, we were talking about hospice. And I told you guys that at that moment, I realized that 3 of the elders in my family belonged on hospice. And the third one of those elders passed this last week. So what I'm proudest about for Daddy Bud was that he had hospice in place the final year of life. And in the U.S., the average family uses hospice less than 5 days, and it is intended to be used the final year. Okay, so when you see your person in stage 6, when they finally look physically sick, when they're shuffling, when they're losing their language rapidly, you need to ask your doctor for a hospice order. We pay for hospice with our tax dollars. It should be in place the final year. Vitas is going to give you so much support. There's supplies they can pay for. There's medicine they can pay for. There's just all sorts of things that hospice does to help the family and the person who is passing. And it shouldn't be there for 5 days, guys. And what has happened in our country because of that is people think if you say someone's on hospice, they're going to die in the next week because we don't get it in place in time. So if your person doesn't qualify, Vitas isn't going to forget you. They're going to keep checking back because we know this is a progressive disease. So don't be afraid to call them. They're there to help you. They have pastoral services, social workers, RNs who show up in the middle of the night, caregivers who come out. They're actually absolutely wonderful people. Okay, so everybody ready? So I told Minerva, I said, call this one the one on sex. And the reason good morning, Guinevere, and good morning, everybody. Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Ann. Hi, Peggy. Hi, Stephen, James, Carolyn, Marcy, Shardy. That's a great name. Let me see. I think Valeria, everybody. Hi, Vanessa. Hi. So I had a lady call me, and the reason she called was that her husband in a memory care community was holding hands and walking around, behaving as though he was the boyfriend of another resident. And that resident happened to very much look like the man's wife. And the man looked very much like the female dementia resident's deceased husband. And the lady was very upset about this, as I think most people are, just as Sandra Day O'Connor even wrote in her book about her husband's care that this happened with him as well. And the woman was very unhappy. She identified herself as a Christian. She was married to this man. That other woman wasn't. That other woman was interfering in their marriage. And as we talked, it began to she began to have a realization that, in a way, as weird as it was, when she was gone from the community, her husband actually felt comfort because he believed she was still there. And yet when she would show up at the community to visit, he would say to her, "I've been looking for you everywhere." And the lady with dementia who would hold his hand would disappear, but she would show up later with another man holding his hand. So several things were going on here. One was the lady with dementia was focused on the gentleman that looked like her ex-husband. She thought that was her husband that she was walking around with. But there's also a thing in stage 6 of the disease where the person with dementia will hold hands with anybody. And this happens in some people, and they're usually people that were very social, very touchy, huggy people, but they will walk up and hold hands with a stranger. And a little bit later in the disease, that same person, if they're holding your hand, they can walk with you, but the minute you drop their hand, they're stuck. And so to me, the beautiful thing about this was that this man believed his wife was there even when she wasn't, and he got comfort from that. And the woman was comforted because she thought this was her husband. Now, the second thing that the lady was concerned about was, what if they had sex? Well, if you enjoyed sex in your 20s, you will enjoy sex in your 90s. That's just a human construct. But you also have to remember, people in later life can be on a lot of heart medications. And he was on a lot of heart medications. And she felt relief once she realized he couldn't have an erection because of his heart medication. And so that brought her great comfort, because she had, I think in her mind, this had become something where they were running around together. And it wasn't. It was, everybody in memory care has brain damage. Everybody in memory care is behaving the way they're behaving because of brain damage and their personality. So is everybody with me so far on what happened? Okay, thanks, Anne. You're so good. Okay, so let's talk about some other things that you can run into, because one of the things this lady brought up to me was that she doesn't find anybody talking about what happens in dementia care with sex. So I'm going to go through some different things that we see. None of these are meant to embarrass anybody, so don't be embarrassed. These are just things that are common for us to see in memory care. It's just that we don't necessarily tell you what your husband does when we're trying to give him a shower. Okay, we see no reason to put that much more stress on you. And you should know that any human being stimulated in a sexual area, their body will still respond sexually. It doesn't mean he or she understands what's happening. It's just a physical response, the same way as when the doctor tapped your knee with that hammer and your leg kicked. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Okay. So in dementia care, we have not seen anyone who identified in their life as a homosexual who now behaves as a heterosexual. But we have a lot of documentation on people who live their lives as heterosexuals who now appear to be homosexual. And we believe what that is just that in the time they grew up in, they didn't feel like they could be who they really were. And if that happens to a person, we're not really concerned about it. We just are looking for socialization and keeping people as calm as possible as we move them through their day. Now, in a lot of people, males and females, we can see what is called hypersexuality. And hypersexuality is when a person's sex drive increases to where they're wanting to have sex with anybody. And what happens in this case is both male and female brains produce testosterone. Males obviously produce a lot more than females do. But once the testosterone level begins to suddenly build, either in a male or female brain, a high testosterone level means that every 17 to 25 seconds, this person may have a sexual thought and may try to engage on it. Now, by engage on it, we don't mean they're trying to attack people, but they become more sexual, they get closer to people. They want to touch people and hug people and hold people. Okay, so that hypersexuality is usually addressed with medication. And 20 years ago, they even used an estrogen patch on males and females because estrogen would bring the testosterone down. There's now a new medication that's used. So if you notice your person becoming hypersexual, and a lot of times, Minerva, the weird thing is families either don't talk to us about this or they come to us and they're furious. And part of that is because it's embarrassing to talk about sex. And we have two different dementias, and the clinical features of both of them involve sex. So in behavioral variant frontal temporal dementia, and this is a rare frontal temporal dementia, but this is considered a sexual behavioral dementia, this person, and typically when we see this behavior, it's in a man, and we don't understand why, but we see more behavioral variance in men, so we don't understand that. But this person has no affect in their voice or on their face or in their eyes. And whether you realize it or not, when you meet other people, you're instantly reading their affect. Do they seem safe? Do they seem dangerous? When a person has no affect, and affect, those emotions come from the frontal lobe, and these are frontal temporal dementias. So behavioral variant very much attacks and destroys the frontal lobe. And so this person loses their recognition of social boundaries, of space that you and I leave between each other that we're not directly connected to. This person instead, because of that damage in the frontal lobe, will get this close to you. They're literally an inch or two from your nose. And in a voice with no emotion, may tell you that they think your breasts look really nice, but there's no emotion in the voice and there's no emotion in the eyes, and your brain will scream psychotic, psychotic, run, run, run. And a lot of times you'll see this when you see a national figure who suddenly gets fired in their 50s or early 60s because they're making inappropriate sexual comments to interns or other females in the group. And it will usually be that they're trying to get them crowded into a corner. And so that's actually a clinical feature of behavioral variant FTD. Another one is the hallucination that can be seen in Lewy bodies dementia. Remember, there's 4 hallucinations we see in that one. They see children, bugs, spiders, rats, and snakes, bad people coming to get them. And the 4th hallucination, which causes the most stress to the caregiver, is that the person with Lewy bodies sees their caregiver having sex with other people right in front of them, in front of the grocery store, out in public somewhere else, with a group of people. And a sexual belief, a belief that their caregiver or their spouse is having sex with everybody, becomes very much a prominent thing to them. And that puts a lot of stress on the caregiver. And it's also insulting to the caregiver who never in their life cheated on their loved one. So that causes a lot of stress. And it's a clinical marker of Lewy bodies, but because it's sexual, the adult children don't tell us about it, and the spouse doesn't tell us about it because they don't realize we actually need to know that stuff to help define and determine which dementia it is. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
Subscribe people you know now?
Yeah,
Could be. Another thing that can happen is the sex drive can actually diminish and go down. And that's not at all unusual. The person is doing other things to be entertained. They just are not getting testosterone levels in their system at that point. And so there's actually a decrease in sexuality or sexual behaviors. Now, there can be personality that can cause sexual behaviors. And so to give you an idea of a patient I had in DC, I'm going to use the word duck so that we can stay family friendly. But this lady would roll around in her wheelchair, and in a very loud voice, she would exclaim, "I want to duck. I want to duck somebody. I see a bunch of men here. Men like to duck. Somebody needs to get me a man so I can duck with that man. And the staff was horrified because most of the time when you see staff in memory care in our skilled facilities, these are people that are very spiritual and very religious because they work with death and they have a closeness to a higher power. A lot of them were very close to grandparents. That's why they feel drawn into this. And the staff came running and said, you've got to do something with her. She constantly wants to duck other people. And so I watch her for a little while, and sure enough, she rolls down the hallway offering her body and assistance to anyone available. And I call her daughter, and the daughter comes to meet with me. And I said, you know, your mom likes to duck a lot. And she tells us all the time she wants to duck, and it's upsetting to the staff. I'm not worried about it, but she wants to duck all the time. And the daughter looked at me and she said, well, you're not telling me anything I didn't know. Mom liked to duck so much that she did her best job to send more of our soldiers, sailors, Marines, Coast Guard, and Navy off to World War II than the USO itself did. And so this was a behavior in mom. She had always been very sexual. And now she just rolled around, and because of damage in her frontal lobe, would just say whatever she thought. And what she mainly thought was about ducking. So what we did was we told her she would come when she would start this behavior, they would bring her to me. I would tell her that ducking wasn't the same anymore. You now had to be in the computer system to see if we could find a proper date for you. And so I would talk to her until she would lose thought of what it was she was looking for and tell her I was entering her into the system. And the minute we found a suitable boyfriend, we would bring him to her. And then she would pad away and be okay. And eventually, like all behaviors, that behavior passed. Okay. So even when you get these behaviors that are very hard for you to watch in your loved one, eventually that behavior is going to go away. Okay. So even when you hear things said that make your ears burn, it's the disease process and it's eventually going to go away. Now, I've had a person who, because of a stroke, became very sexual. And because of this stroke, this gentleman who was in his 50s, when this debilitating stroke happened that landed him in a nursing home for the rest of his life, that's how severe the stroke was. When this happened to him, he would masturbate in the main room of the community. And that was very upsetting to the ladies. The gentlemen didn't think it was nice. The nurses and the caregiving staff were just totally freaked out about it. But you don't need to be. When a person does that behavior, you have to remember how they don't see the way you and I see. So if all of I see is a little tunnel, I don't know anybody's around me when I'm doing what is something that would normally be done in someone's bedroom. And so if that happens, we don't shame someone. We simply throw a blanket over them and then get them to their bedroom as quickly as possible because they're just doing a normal sexual activity. And those of you who are parents who raise little boys know that that is a very interesting thing down there, and it feels good when it gets touched, and that behavior doesn't ever really necessarily go away. Okay. We have issues in our communities where we have staff that gets very upset when a spouse comes in and wants to spend time with their loved one. And of course, we want you to spend time with your loved one. But we begin to enter into an ethical decision when the husband wants to come have sex with his wife. And based on what we know about the disease, that wife now has the equivalency mentally of a 6-year-old. And so would having sex with that lady that you've been intimate with for 50 years, is that still appropriate? So we don't just deal with somebody who's acting out sexually. We also deal with spouses who see this as part of their marital contract that they still have the right to have sex with this person. And sometimes explaining to them what the mental equivalency of this person is makes that behavior stop. Other times it continues until it doesn't anymore. And that causes a lot of conflict for us. And then you have to realize that when we do intimate care, and intimate care means touching anything in the breast or genitalia, and we have to do that for toileting, we have to do that in bathing, showering, We have to do that to clean someone. If they've lost control or evacuated their bowels or their bladder, we still have to do intimate care. And in stage 6, that is normally when we begin to have to do very intimate care. And that's why some of you may have been told that your loved one is combative. And they're combative because, ladies, there are places on our body where we've been told our whole lives not to let anybody touch us. And so we can become very agitated. And there are gentlemen that don't want anybody else to touch them. They somehow recognize this isn't their wife, this isn't right. And then there are other gentlemen that are happy every time they have a shower and will offer to do things for the caregiver. And so the caregivers do a lot of care that works around sexual activity. And when a man gets aroused, the staff member simply finishes the shower as quickly as possible and steps away. And if we notice a caregiver begins to be focused on by a resident, we will move that caregiver to where they're not doing that kind of care for the resident so that we can try to bring that behavior down. If the behavior becomes too much, then we're going to talk to you and we're going to talk to the physician and make a determination about whether medication is needed. But different sexual behaviors are a normal part of the disease process that we see. And there may even be others that I'm not thinking of that you may have seen yourself. Okay. But it's nothing that's going to make us send your person back home. It's nothing that's going to make us think ill of your person. These are all normal human responses to touch. And then the other things are coming because of brain damage due to the dementia, because of brain damage that hit the area of the brain from a stroke that is involved with sexual activity. The other is don't know where I am, don't recognize that I'm in a group of people. Other things are I got touched somewhere and it feels really good and I want to keep doing that. Others are spouses coming in. Okay, so anybody have any questions? Y'all are, we don't want to talk about it. We're good.
Well, I
ahead,
actually
unmute
do,
yourself.
if I may.
Yes.
Dr. Tam, was you using the example, you know, when you're talking about the spouse coming into the facility and wanting to have his conjugal rights with his wife? So are you saying that because she has the age of a 6-year-old now, you don't really encourage, understandably, that behavior, obviously?
Correct.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, because does that lady still realize that that's her husband, right? And does that lady understand what's happening to her? Is that lady getting pleasure from this? Or is this lady experiencing the effect of being a 6-year-old who a big grown man is having sex with? And that's the part where we really get into discussions with the family member about what is the best thing for this person with brain damage.
Thank you. That really cleared it up. It does make sense. I mean, do you engage spouses or what happens? I mean, they must realize as well before they bring their spouses to a facility, perhaps? Or do you think that it's because they just continued on with marital relations before they entered the facility?
Where we have seen it is the marital relation continued and now the person has declined. And so for me, it's very challenging because for me, I see a grown person having sex with a child. And so that's very disruptive to me. But on the same point, they may have been married 60 years and this is not frightening for him or for her. So I think it's a basis by basis deal. But when I look at it from a brain function, it's a person with a full brain having sex with a person who has a significant amount of brain damage, significant enough to be in a community.
Thank you so much.
Wait, don't we all love how Vanessa talks and don't we want her to just do this from now on? Would you feel smarter when you hear Vanessa talk? I do. I always
Yes. And I see Peggy has her hand up. Go ahead, Peggy.
Turn the speaker on, Peggy.
She's trying.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, mentioned this, I think, once before, but my husband has a better social life at the care facility than I ever thought about having. Okay, he's younger than most of the residents, and he looks young because his hair isn't white like mine. It's black and has a little silver in it.
Mhm.
And so he has residents that kind of flirt with him,
Mhm.
and he is in love with the speech path and ask her. He very rarely asks anybody a question about themselves, but he asks her on a regular basis, "Is she married?"
Mhm.
And then he'll say, "I'm so sorry, I can't drive." And I'm like, "That's because he wants to take your butt on a date, Donna." And
Yep.
she's like, "Yeah." So now they joking, and it doesn't bother me. I mean, I'm glad he's got interaction with people. I don't think he's tried to do anything hypersexual or anything like that I know of. But the other therapist at the facility called Donna and I sister wives.
Well, being married to someone doesn't mean you don't appreciate beauty or handsome when
That's
it goes
right.
by.
Yeah.
I did have a resident once who was a player, and he'd been a player his whole life. He had a woman on each hallway. And when he would go, and he played the piano, and we had a piano in the main room, and then his children had put a piano in his bedroom, and he could lure women with a piano. He was like a Pied Piper, but he was a player. He had a woman on each hall, and there were 4 hallways. He stayed busy constantly, but never anything sexual, just holding hands and walking with each other. So most of the time,
Yeah.
more companionship and not so much sexual
Right.
interaction. Now, we do get reports where the staff walked into a room and one resident was undressing another resident. That does happen. We separate them quickly. But again, most of our residents are on some sort of blood thinner or heart medication, which makes it hard to carry through. And the staff
Right.
is going to allow them to carry through. They're going to separate them and move them to separate rooms.
Good deal.
Miss Guinevere, I bet you never thought you'd hear anything like this today when you woke up. Yes, Peggy.
Oh, I didn't mean to raise my hand again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because you're only allowed one.
That was an accident. Just trying to get my microphone turned off.
Oh,
I
okay.
can do that for you. Hold up. There
Isn't
you
that
go.
scary? Peggy, she reached into your house to your computer and turned it off. Okay. Anybody else? Marcy's sitting in her car. I hope she's got the heater on. No. You got to press your button. There you are. Hi, Marcy.
There. Hi. No, I'm driving. I'm sitting in a shopping mall, just waiting for this call. But I had sent an email to you, but I don't know if you got it when class was canceled. The one that we had last month asking you questions, we were talking about medicines. And you had somebody in Florida that was going to provide a list of medications and what they do and stuff like that. She was an expert or something.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
I never got that, but then I had a question because my husband is, I'm guessing he's in mid-late to early late stages. And he was in a program like daycare in the community where we live. And then they gave me a call one afternoon and said that I could no longer bring him because this was set up for people that were mildly cognitive and it's time for him to transition.
What part of the country are you in?
Georgia.
Okay.
And so we just moved here 8 months ago, so it's all new to me. But I thought it was a good program. If I had it, he was there for 4 days a week from 9 to 4. If they had it 5 days, I would do it because it gives me that relief.
Do you have you staged him on your behavioral assessment tool?
Yeah, that's why I think it's he's late middle to early late.
Okay, so stage 4, the person doesn't look sick, but your children pick up now that something's wrong. Stage 5, they begin to repeat constantly everything they're saying. Questions, where is this? When is this? Until you just think you're going to pull your hair out. Then they continue to decline. In stage 6, which is called severe dementia, they finally look sick. And that's
what
when
do
we begin to see more behaviors, because the person really doesn't understand what's happening around them. And so they respond. Right. And then stage
Okay.
7, the person is bedbound.
Okay, well, he's not in stage 6 yet then.
Okay. But Minerva, did I send you the paper on medications from Catherine?
I don't believe so. I know you were gonna talk to her about whether or not you could share it.
Oh, no, I've been sharing it. Once you
Okay.
send it to me, it belongs to everybody.
Okay, well, the question I have is that he, as a result of that, I ended up getting a caregiver. So I have somebody that comes into the house 5 hours a day so I can get out and about. That's what I'm doing
Okay.
now. The first caregiver, all of a sudden, they were in having coffee in the community, and I don't know what the discussion was because I wasn't there, but I was headed there, and he hit the caregiver, I believe, on the arm. And then she got up and started walking away. My husband went after her and started yelling, "You don't like me," and da da da. And then she calls security and all this. So when I mentioned it to Emory, because we're part of their Emory integrated memory care plan,
Mhm.
they had said, well, we have to change his medications. So he was on Seroquel. I think that's quetiapine. I might be saying that wrong. He started at 25 milligrams, and then when they bumped it up to 50, all of a sudden the pharmacist called and said, this isn't good. We don't give this to dementia patients. He's on heart medication also. So then
Marcy,
I went.
what would normally happen is his antidepressant would have been adjusted, not an antipsychotic.
Is it a Dival? I don't have. Let me see. It's in my phone, and you're on my phone.
That's
So
okay. That's okay.
Dival by Dival Pro X or something. Is that a antidepressant? They did increase that now to I believe it's 250 twice a day. I don't know if that's an antidepressant.
Tell
That's
me
why I
the,
was
tell me the name again.
Dival Deval Pro X. Let me see if I can find it. It's in my
Okay,
photos.
I've got it. Oh, it's Depakote. It's used for bipolar, migraine, epilepsy. They've had some success with it, using it in dementia patients, but let me, okay.
As a gal at Emory, we just started with a new gal, and we went to her on Friday, and she said she's been doing this for 30 years, and we'll just find the right balance between these two with donepezil and memantine. He's on all those. So she says we just have to find the right ratio so he doesn't hit someone. So I went through that caregiver. Now I'm with another one.
Okay, and have you also, Minerva, can you,
Yes.
while I look for this, I've already sent Minerva the handout on medications to help you understand what they're used for. That should have popped up on her. I think I sent it to her twice. But give me just a second. I'm going to give you all the name of a oh, hang on, Minerva. I'm going to send you where we've already got it laid out as a book.
Okay, sounds good. I'll be more than happy.
This will be the third one, Minerva. Okay, this is by Catherine McDermott, is who this information comes from. She is an advanced practice registered nurse practitioner and psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. She specializes in dementia. You can find her in Sarasota, Florida. Okay, and Catherine is one of my cohorts. She is delighted to talk to you and help you figure out these medicines, Marcy. A lot of times this is a cocktail that they're trying to get the mixture right. But what we see in doctors who don't specialize this is that they will immediately go to Seroquel because a nurse in the building said Seroquel, or it's a word they've heard, when what actually should happen is the antidepressant should be adjusted. Because remember, depression in people with dementia is angry, annoyed, agitated, and aggressive. The caregiver is the one at fault with your husband. When a person with dementia hits us, we did something wrong, not them. They have brain damage. We have 3-pound brains. And the hardest part about dementia care is trying to outthink somebody with half a brain so that they don't hit us. But a lot of times it has to do with not recognizing that if I don't approach them directly from the front, looking in their eyes, they don't see me. So if the person was naturally a fighter, because all of us are fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. If the person was naturally a fighter and I suddenly startle them, well, they're going to hit me, right? And then if I get agitated, all they do is get more agitated. Okay. So we don't blame him for striking someone. We blame that caregiver for not having better skills. Okay. And then I think when all of you read this, and we're going to get this published, Catherine's adding in a section more on antipsychotics. And I also asked her to put in something on marijuana because I get a lot of questions about that. And let me see, your book cover looks something like that, but you definitely got the insides of it. If Minerva will promise that she picked it up. Has it come through?
No, my email tends to be slow, but once I get all of the handouts and everything, I will be getting everything out to everybody.
And remember, all of y'all, this is like everything else you've had to do with your loved one. The more you know, the more you're able to steer that doctor to where you need them to actually look at this person and their behaviors and not simply give them another medication. Okay. And Minerva, we have
Yes,
an area agency on aging in Georgia still, don't we?
I believe so.
So all of you can reach out to the Area Agency on Aging. That is our federal government's branch of aging from the Older Americans Act of 1964. And when you call them, Minerva, who do they ask for? The caregiver programmer? Do you remember?
Ask if they have a caregiver specialist on staff, if they have a caregiver program. I'm gonna post on the chat the elder care locator. That's a great way to find your local area agency on aging. You just have to put your zip code and it'll pop up. And it'll also give you the phone number for your local ombudsman. If you're having any issues with the facilities, that's who you would report the issues to.
Now, they can send out a caregiver if they, and everybody uses their funds differently, but most of them have funds, Marcy, that the only qualification is you're doing care for somebody over 60. That's it. They don't look at your finances. They're not interested in that, but they send you a caregiver for 3 months, 3 times a week for 4 hours at a time to help you get a respite. And so you can either use that or you can add it to what you've already got in place, Marcy. You can also have the staff, you can go to YouTube and look for a video I've done on behaviors. You can go to YouTube, WellMed. I know I've done behavioral ones on WellMed that you can look for under me and WellMed, but there's should be information on there to help. And of course, everybody's got my phone number, which is 254-216-3668. And you can always call me if we need to work on something that we're not quite hitting it this morning, Marcy, and we need to get together a little bit more and plan. But anytime your loved one strikes a caregiver, it's the caregiver's fault. It's not their fault. They have brain damage. They're responding to being startled, to being scared, to misinterpreting what's happening. The caregiver's moving too fast, talking too fast. They're being rough with them. Any of those things can cause behaviors. And we do not blame the person with dementia. We look at what did the caregiver do that wasn't proper. Okay. And we even get sexual behaviors because caregivers who wear scrubs, the scrubs have a V-neck in them. So if you have a well-endowed lady and she bends over, a person with dementia gets a full shot of what she's got in her bra, and that can cause sexual behaviors. Does that make sense, Peggy? Peggy's like, what? So we tell caregivers there's a reason why you move and bend the way you do so that the male caregiver doesn't see your breast.
Definitely. And I did get the handouts, so I'm gonna.
It's just that
See if
I
I
don't
can post
understand being well endowed. That's never been part of my
Yeah,
experience.
I could see that. I could see that. Yeah. Okay, so
Thank you.
Marcy, we're going to get that stuff out to you. I cannot think of Catherine's company. I know she owns the Town Square Adult Daycare in Sarasota, Bradenton. Not just Sarasota, it's Sarasota, Bradenton. If you call the Sarasota one, you won't get her. But if you call there and ask, they'll tell you the name of her clinic. She will call you back, Marcy, and she will help you out on what your questions are about medication, because that's what she's an expert in. And she
Okay,
only
thank you.
does, she's like me, she only does dementia.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And I'm going to post the medication handouts on the chat. You should receive it, and either way, I will be sending it out with the additional resources email afterwards. That'll have
Thank
the
you.
link to this recording as well as everything that Tam's covering right now.
Okay, Marcy, are you okay? You've been frozen in the same spot.
I had to find I had to go to another part on my phone, so I lost the video, so I can't
Oh,
see
okay.
anything.
Okay.
And I can't get to the chat, so hopefully she can email that stuff because I'm in my car and I don't have access to that.
No problem. I will send that out to you, Marcy.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Thanks, Tina.
And I
Yes, ma'am.
see that Anne has her hand up.
I do indeed. Yes, thank you. I wanted to share. I emailed Dr. Tam. My husband is in stage 6 of dementia, mixed dementia, and has been in a nursing home since last May. And I emailed Dr. Tam to say I was beginning to feel really tired. I'd been visiting him every other day, and was that a right balance of sort of visiting? And Dr. Tam was really helpful, gave me some really good advice, which I have taken, and I'm taking the medicine that Dr. Tam suggested, hot chocolate. So I don't know if you want to repeat the advice you gave me, because it's been very, very helpful. Somebody, a doctor, giving me permission to rest, basically.
Well, actually, I ordered her to take a week off immediately. And then after that week, you're allowed to go once a week unless something unusual happens. Because he doesn't really realize Anne is there. And it is gut-wrenching to watch someone you love very slowly die. And that takes a toll on you. That's why the caregiver death rate is so high. It's not just the stress of giving care, it's the stress of watching someone you love. Now, if it was like my Teddy and you didn't give a care, well, that'd be different, you know. But when you love someone, it takes a definite toll on you.
Yeah.
And so for all of you, if you are going every day, stop. Okay. If something happens, trust me, they're going to call you. If your loved one is still at home, do respite care. Find the money to do 1 month of respite care in a community. And respite care in a community doesn't mean you go see them every day. The doctor, we will all tell them they're in rehab. They'll go do that. They'll do activities. They'll draw and paint stuff. They'll have a lot of fun, but you don't go visit them. Otherwise, you're right back where you started from. So use that month to get some rest. If your person is still at home, if they're in the community, take a week off. Everybody on here today, everybody that'll watch tomorrow, take the next week off. Okay. And if your person doesn't recognize you, it's even harder for you to do visits or to be around them. So don't, and I know it's hard not to take this personally, but it's not personal, it's brain damage. Okay. If all of the information in your brain about the person you loved most was right here and I snatched it away, you wouldn't know them anymore. And that's all it is. It's not a personal attack. It's the continuing effects of brain damage. Okay. Did somebody put something up, Minerva? Because
Yes.
I only see a flash when it goes by.
No problem. Gordon put in the chat, since I retired at the end of December, my wife doesn't consistently recognize me. She was treated for a UTI, but her confusion persists. She talks normally to me, then later insists it was another man. Sometimes she speaks to me about Gordon, me, as if I wasn't there. She claims I have been inviting nice strangers to help her. Interestingly, she acutely recalls what she was said or done. Just the wrong people, all me.
Yeah. Gordon, she doesn't recognize you because how long have y'all been married? Hold up a finger for each decade. 50 years?
50 years.
Do you look like the man she married in y'all's wedding picture?
No, and sometimes she says it's a younger man, and they seem to resemble me.
Yeah, she's looking for you, but she's looking for the you that looked like you looked when y'all got married. And so frequently the spouse, especially long-term relationships, the spouse will look at you and think you might be her father or her grandfather, but there's no way she's married to you because she's actually in her 30s and she's married to a young man. And it's all due to brain damage. And then every time we see a UTI, Gordon, every time we see some sort of infection happen, there is a decline. And that is just to be expected as they go along, because as this happens, every infection makes the brain less healthy. And so on that time of infection, more brain cells die. And that's why when y'all see your loved ones after they're treated for an infection, there's generally a step down. Okay.
Well, I've been watching to
not that
see
she
if this
doesn't
is
love
the new. I was watching to see if this was the new normal or if it was just the UTI that she would recover, but it seems to persist.
it
And
does. And then remember, the UTIs will begin to come faster and faster. But
yes,
that's the reason. The body's overwhelmed by infection, and we have more
Mhm.
brain damage during those infected moments. And then
I
Gordon
see.
also seems to be a tipping scale, right? So you have
Mhm.
100 billion brain cells, and if you lose 20 billion, no one notices. But at 20 billion and one, all of a sudden we see a decline or a step down that was there, but it just
Mhm.
wasn't enough for us to see it. And so when
Yeah.
they get infections, when they have a fall, when they get a hospitalization, when they get a cold, a flu, pneumonia, we generally see a step down, and that becomes your new normal until the next step. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, she's also a brilliant person, so she has the cognitive reserve. And I remember you in the past saying that sometimes you hit the edge and suddenly they go down quickly. In that kind of circumstance. My
They
main
do.
concern for her is that she gets agitated or even angry about it, either mad that I'm inviting people in, or if I've tried to play along with her, she's upset. If I try to convince her, of course, that doesn't work. So I'm trying to keep her calm and peaceful. But she'll say some man's been sleeping in our bed, or I'll sit all evening with her watching television, and she'll the next day say, where were you? You were gone all day and all night.
It's because the
Yeah.
piece of the brain that made memory isn't there anymore. And it sounds like there's times where she's looking for you. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
there's somebody with a herd of little dogs and they heard something, and so y'all heard, don't try to sneak up on me, they'll catch you. So you're seeing normal behaviors. There's moments where, because of the longevity of y'all's relationship, her brain finds a pathway with cells in it that's you. But the other times her brain is trying to figure out, who is this guy around me? Because she's looking for younger Gordon, not Gordon now. And it's
Yeah.
actually very, very common, because I'm going backwards in time with my brain and you're always around, but my brain doesn't say that's still my husband. My brain says, oh, I'm in my 20s now. Wonder who that old guy is. He's nice, but he's not who I'm looking for.
Mhm.
And so
I
you're
see.
witnessing different pieces of her brain work from that time when
Mhm.
she does recognize you, to that time of who you are, to that, who are those people coming in here. She's having some hallucination behavior or some delusional behavior. Now,
Yeah.
delusion, remember, is something you and I, is something a person believes it's not real. Hallucination is something they see, hear, or smell that's not real. And from your talk, I can't determine if she's hallucinating or is delusional. Most of the time, it's a delusion because of brain damage. There's some hallucinations in Alzheimer's and the other dementias. The big one are the Lewy body Parkinson's group. but she may be having a little bit of both of those. And some family caregivers get so good, they can tell a UTI is happening because of the change in her behavior.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And
I
that's
had wondered if just my being with her more consistently, my awareness of it is emerging, uh, since I was working full time on a schedule, and now I'm around a lot more. I mean, what's odd about it is that she recalls the details of what was said and what was done. It's just it was the wrong people.
Yeah. It's just different parts of the brain working. And for you
Hmm.
having retired so recently and to suddenly realize, and that's also something that happens. The one spouse works all the time. They think everything's okay at home or pretty okay, little different, but pretty okay.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden you're around them 24 hours a day and you realize, wow, they really are much sicker than I realized. Okay. And that burden can take a really strong physical and emotional toll on you. So
Mhm.
just make sure you're talking to your doctor about your stress level. And remember, on the website, on my website, if you'll scroll all the way down the front page to the tools section, there are
Mhm.
tools in there to measure your stress level and those you take to your doctor. So
Mhm.
that would be Zarit's, the one that starts with a Z, ZARIT, Zarit's Burden Interview. It's measuring how heavy your stress levels are. There's
Yeah.
the,
Fortunately, I've taken your tests and I rank very low on the stress side.
okay, now
I do a
remember,
lot of
go
things. I go to caregiver support
with
meetings. I exercise, walk 8 miles a day. I listen to podcasts. I have social interactions. I eat
okay,
well, etc.
okay.
Trying to maintain balance. Fortunately, she doesn't do dangerous things, so I can leave her alone for a few hours at a time, which really helps for the respite side of things.
Okay, so just remember, because they don't do something today, like get in a car and drive to Arkansas, doesn't mean
Mhm.
they won't do it tomorrow. So
Right.
put an air tag on her, on
Good
her
idea.
shoe, on her wrist.
She's in a wheelchair, so she can't go far.
Okay. I would never leave a person with a wheelchair alone.
Mm.
It's too much of a fall risk, and everything on a wheelchair will hurt and bruise a person with dementia. If you need a wheelchair, and this is where hospice is very, very handy, is they can get you the Broda wheelchair, and it's BRODA. These are the newer wheelchairs, because a wheelchair is made to transport person from A to B. It's not meant to sit in all day. The Broda wheelchair is like they come out and fit it to your wife so that it actually fits her properly. There's nothing on a Broda chair that she can bruise herself with. And you can actually recline in them so that
Mm.
she's reclining and taking a nap while you're gone. But I would
Mm.
never leave a person with dementia alone with a wheelchair. There's
Okay.
too much of a risk of a fall, and the way they're going to fall is forward, and any head strike is going to cause significant damage. Okay. And in communities, Gordon, we are not allowed to restrain a person into a wheelchair. Okay. So I've seen family members that use a seat belt. We don't do that because they can actually slide out of that wheelchair down through that seat belt and end up
Mm.
choking themselves.
Strangulated. Mm.
Or they try to get out of the wheelchair and they flip it over. And that's your big
Yeah.
concern.
Yeah.
Okay. So if
We
I
don't
can't leave
we
her,
don't use a wheelchair. We don't use a seatbelt. She does frequently slide out of her wheelchair or off of her portable commode or out of her recliner. So she falls probably. It's never a standing fall. It's always a slide off
sliding out fall,
about two or three
look at the
times a
Broda
week.
wheelchairs.
Okay, I'll
Look
look
at
at
the
that.
Brodas.
Is that BRODA, Broda?
BRODA. They're incredibly expensive, but
Mm.
they are lifesavers for your loved one. Because
Mm.
when you leave, you can tuck her in with a blanket, lay it out flat, and she'll usually stay there because she'll think she's in bed.
Mm.
But
Oh,
I
And
would
I put
really
a link,
caution you against that wheelchair and leaving her in that.
okay.
I put a link to their website, so at least you guys are able to see what she's talking about wheelchair wise.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They're lovely.
Mm.
And I think a lot of it is nobody updated the wheelchair for over a century, and
Mhm.
nobody understands wheelchairs are meant to transport person from A to B. They're not meant to sit in all day long. And how many times have you been in a community and there's 20 people sitting in a wheelchair, and how unpleasant that is? So
Now, Hers is a custom one that was fitted to her. It just doesn't have the recline features and those kinds of things.
Mhm.
It
Well,
was
the
it was about
rodents are
a
padded all over, so there's no
I
metal
see.
to hit their skin on. But when you
Yeah,
look, you'll see.
yeah, yeah.
Also, Gordon, reach out to the Area Agency on Aging to see if you can get some respite care in there to help you because you're doing what you
Okay.
need to be doing. But her sliding off the toilet, sliding like you're describing, would make me want to reach out to the doctor and talk about hospice care because that's very pronounced. Does that make sense?
Yes, she
And
loses
remember,
track of
I'm
time.
happiest if we get hospice care 5 years. That's what I used to see, but now they've
Wow.
come to us. Right, Minerva?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She has a nosognosia, so she has no clue that she has a cognitive decline. She also has a compounding problem with schwannomatosis, where she has nerve sheath tumors throughout her body.
Mm-hmm.
So she has to take pain meds. She's under MD Anderson care
Mm-hmm.
for that and pain management. So it's a very complicated situation.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Oh, yeah. And the pain
uh,
medicine is on what they would have to give her is only
yeah,
going to make her more likely to fall. So that's probably the
yeah,
reason for the sliding, but I would discuss it with the doctor to see if there's something they can tweak or adjust there so that she's not
mhm,
sliding down off of a toilet. Because there's no way that
mhm.
doesn't hurt,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Anybody ever
it
sit
definitely
down sitting on
hurts.
their bottom? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it hurts when it happens, and she can do it when I'm in the room, when I'm asleep, when I'm in the other room. It
Mm-hmm.
just she loses track of time, and then just and she'll bend over reaching for something or fall asleep, and will just tumble.
Yeah. All
So
of those things that you're describing, Gordon, are normal for dementia.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and start the poll because I'm looking at the time. Tam, are you available to stay on a little bit more, or
Yeah, if
do you
anybody
want?
has any questions, we're happy to
I,
stay on a little bit more.
I see Peggy has her hand up.
Peggy?
Hey,
Yes.
yeah, I just want you, can you explain this? So the other day, I got my baby with me. He's been watching Curious George. We don't watch TV a lot, and so he's mesmerized, but uh,
Grandmas are the best.
I know he's my buddy. So anyway, the other day, one of the caregivers said to me, Daryl tricked us. And I'm like, how did he trick you? I mean, how is he mentally able to trick you? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she said, well, he started coughing really hard like he was aspirating. And we ran over to his chair. He was in a Jerry chair and he was in the day room. And she said, the second we got beside his chair, he immediately stopped coughing, grinned, and started talking to us, telling his script. You know, my mama sends me $25. Can you explain that? Was he really tricking them?
Yeah. Was he always funny?
Uh, he had a very he had a good sense of humor, but it was subtle. You know what I mean?
Well, that's pretty subtle.
Yeah.
I think he's just playing with them. I mean, funny people continue to be funny people, even with dementia.
I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, are you serious? She said, I mean, the red hot second we were beside his chair, he immediately just cut it off, the coughing.
It's all, it's one of the things that drew me into this field is just the odd behaviors they can do when everything I know says they shouldn't be able to do that. But
Yeah.
it's the power of the brain. A connection was made.
Right.
Him back to that guy who could pull a little quick funny on someone.
Well, he did. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh.
Absolutely. Mr. Bates, are you okay? I mean, we can't hear you.
You can. How?
Okay, there you are.
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Douglas, you doing all right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Okay, Catherine had put in the chat, can you go over what you touched on about smart people and their quick or sudden decline?
Hang on just a second. Mr. Douglas, you okay?
Yes, I did want to ask you a question, but I think it's a little off topic.
That's okay. Do we ever stay on topic? So we're
No.
good.
I started a support group here at our CCRC because we didn't have one.
Mm-hmm.
And it was obvious that it was needed.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got 400 people in their 80s and 90s walking around, there's a need.
Right.
But what has happened is it's become pretty much every week a bitch session.
Okay. So here's a way to fix that.
Please.
We don't allow, does your CCRC have a social worker in it?
Yes, ma'am.
The social worker should be running the support group, not you. Okay.
I got our chaplain to work with me on it. So he kind of leads it day to day. I do all the grunt work getting through the month until we get to the session.
Yeah, they should control that, because when it becomes oh, you think your story's bad, let me tell you my story, we're no longer supporting each other. So I've had people who are starting support groups take the itty bitty dementia book, and each support group meeting, they do a different section of it, and that's all you're allowed to talk about. We're not allowed to talk about how terrible it is, how this is. It's a support group. And as part of the support, you start with the education. Okay. If you need an itty bitty book, just reach out and holler at me. I don't know which CCRC you're in.
I'm in South Carolina.
Okay. Get a copy of the itty bitty dementia book. And if you, they're on Amazon, but if there's any issue, just holler at me. And, people start, a lot of their support groups start by going through the itty bitty book, and they just go through X amount of pages at a time.
Okay.
And then that gives you a script to follow, and that keeps people off of the other thing. Another technique, Steve, is to have everybody start with a gratitude statement of what they're thankful for today.
I like that. I like that very much.
And we tell people to keep 2 journals. One journal is what's happening today. The other journal is, and in the journal of what's happening today, I only want you to write down the funny things. Don't write down the horror of this disease. Write down when he or she does or says something funny. The second journal is your gratitude journal for your own health. Every day you need to write down at least 3 things you're grateful for. And I don't care if it's, I love my cat, I love my cat, I love my cat. In 21 days, your autoimmune system will begin to boost itself. Okay, so you can have everybody do a gratitude statement to start. And you can tell them at the start, this is not a bitching session. We are here to support each other, not terrify each other with how bad your life is.
Yeah, we have tried that. I actually stopped the meeting 2 months ago and said, look, this is not what we're here for. And I spoke with the chaplain. He had agreed that he would control things of that nature, so I didn't get up sideways with the other residents. But he hasn't been very successful at doing that.
I don't understand why the social worker is not helping you. This is what their job, part of their job in a community is usually running the support group, because they have a license in it.
Right.
But you can start with the education components. And I have support groups that send me notes and need papers or information on what they're going to do next time. But you could start simply with the dementia behavioral assessment tool and have everybody grade their person. And the big thing is, if their person is repeating things, they're in stage 5 of the disease. That's when that happens. Okay. So you can do a support group where everybody gets a copy and we go through and fill it out. Okay. You can do a support group and explain that everybody needs to go check their person using the Cornell scale for depression and dementia, the Hamilton anxiety scale, and the brief psychiatric rating scale. And that measures psychosis, depression, and anxiety. And it gives them tools to talk to their doctor about. So you can use just the tools section and start support group with that, so that people leave with information and it stops being a bitching session and turns to actual support. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And I apologize to everybody else for taking so much time.
No. You holler at me. Holler at me if you need more stuff. Okay. Okay. Miss Catherine, when a person has cognitive reserve, it means that their IQ was higher than average, and the average IQ is 100. So if your loved one's IQ was 140, they have to have significant brain and chemistry damage in the brain before they even fail the test, because the tests are meant for an average IQ. But what it means is the earlier parts of the disease, stages 2, 3, and 4, last longer. But once they turn into stage 5, they actually have more brain damage than the person of average intelligence. And now the disease speeds up because they have so much brain damage. Okay. So
Wow.
we see this in people, and it doesn't mean they had a doctorate. People have high IQs who never had the chance to go to college. And you don't have to go to college to have a high IQ. But every degree the person got, their brain learned to be more analytical in its function. And an analytical brain is able to hold the disease at bay longer because there's actually more brain function in that brain. There's more, it's a more complex brain, and it has more information in it. So people of higher intellect have higher, with a higher IQ, have higher vocabularies. And so other people around them may not notice that their vocabulary is beginning to diminish down to what is a regular vocabulary. Okay. But what happens with cognitive reserve is once they turn into stage 5, the family will report that they seem to be losing ground very, very rapidly. And so that's a normal thing to expect.
Wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense because my mom has always, she's I think more at the end of stage 6, kind of, I mean 6-ish. I mean, she's in there, but she always has that ability to throw out a one-liner, and like you think, oh my God, you get that conversation and laugh, and everyone laughs, and up until now, honestly, you know, everyone kept saying, oh, your mom's fine, she doesn't have to, you know, like it wasn't as bad as it was where I knew it was because I'm with her every day.
Because they didn't know, because it wasn't their mom. They didn't know how she really was. And it goes back to funny people are still funny even with dementia. And people that everything I've been taught says they should not be able to figure out and make a joke out of that. Funny people are just funny people. The problem for the family member like you is that outsiders see that humor and think that humor equals cognition, and it doesn't. And so because of humor, I've seen entire families fooled that believe dad was perfectly fine because he was funny, and dad was being funny because he didn't know the answers to the questions.
Right.
And so he had, and this one guy had this great laugh, this laugh, and the children would get tickled and start laughing with him, and then they all forget that dad never answered the question.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So normal to see with really smart, funny people.
But they start, like you had also mentioned something, they start to decline some, because like she just recently went to memory care, basically because she kept going out the front door where she lived, and because she's packing up every day to go, and went.
Yeah, that's not a stage 6 person, Catherine. That's a late stage 5 person. So take away the suitcases or anything, because if we take away suitcases, then we don't think to pack.
Oh, she packs it on her walker.
You know, she's a go-getting lady, but that's not a stage 6 person. That's more of a stage 5.
Really? Even she has, like, her vocabulary is going down big time right now. She's not talking as often. She's getting more of that flat face.
And I would say, based on what you're saying, she's right at the turn of those two, but it just goes faster and faster. But she doesn't.
I've noticed a big, like it was going like this, and now it's kind of seemed more like this, you know, but
And then remember, even in dementia, just like even in cancer, we still are most likely to die in the time of our birth. So I'm born.
And that's another question I wanted to ask you. I'm sorry, you've brought that up before about the 30-60 days before and after. Why is that? Is that like some scientific fact? Is that just how it's happened? And where's that, like?
Well, if you're a religious person, the Quran, the Talmud, and the Bible all speak about a time to be born and a time to die, that there is season and purpose to life. If you look at the demographics of first world countries, 79% of us after the age of 25 will die in the time of our birth. And it's the 90-day window around our birth, 30 days before the birthday, 60 days after the birthday. The other 20% or so die in accidents, or they have had something occurred that changed their projected death rate. So for example, they had a heart attack and should have died then, but they had the heart attack in the hospital and they were saved. If you look at the date of the heart attack, it was in that 90-day window. Now their trajectory of death will be changed. But otherwise, it is 79.8% of us will die in the time of our birth. So it's just a season and purpose to life. Okay, so when I look, and remember, the time of actively dying is 9 months, the same way birth was 9 months. So I begin to look at a person 11, 10, 9 months before their birthday to see if I'm starting to see a decline. And for that, you use your actively dying tool to see if you're starting to see those things. So even dementia people will suddenly begin to have vivid dreams and talk about them, even though we haven't heard them talk in a while. Okay, so there are distinct things that happen, and it occurs in dementia, in cancer. We still die in the time of our birth unless there was some medical intervention that changed that. Okay, and that's what allows me to look at your person's birthday, look at where they are, where their decline is, and are they showing signs of actively dying? And that's how I'm able to say y'all are getting into your final year now. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Now is everybody depressed? If everybody's depressed, my work here is done. Vanessa looks
Yeah.
depressed. Carolyn looks depressed. Miss Guinevere won't even turn her picture on today. She's so depressed.
No,
Steve
she
is
won't
depressed.
turn on her picture, but she did put it's true about the high IQ. They fool many. And
Yes,
from the
her
years
husband
we've
has a
seen
very high
Guinevere.
IQ. Yeah. And who's in the parking lot? Marcy. Marcy, you should meet with Miss Guinevere. I went to have lunch with her one day and we drove 17 miles through San Antonio using only parking lots. It was a unique experience, one that Glenda and I still laugh about today. Isn't that right, Miss Guinevere?
You sure right.
It's safer in that parking lot. She explained it to me and I believed her. It's safer in that parking lot.
You're right. You're right.
So, Miss Marcy, if you're looking for somebody to hang out and ride through parking lots with, you're going to have to come to San Antonio and hook up with Miss Guinevere. Yes, ma'am, Miss Egan.
And I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I really appreciate your straight talking. It's so helpful. It's prepared me so I know what's coming and it's not a shock when it happens.
Isn't it amazing? We tell you about cancer and what's going to come, but nobody tells you what's going to happen to this disease.
Yeah.
And you're left thinking they're going to lose their memory. They'll forget how to make a sandwich. And it's not that. It's every single thing that you and I do is memory.
It's really, really helpful. I tell as many people that will listen about, you and the books and everything, and I've given them away because I know what a difference it makes. So thank you so much. And for
You're so welcome. And I think all of you will really enjoy Catherine McDermott's work on the medicine. And she's in Sarasota, Florida. If you call the town square of Sarasota, Bradenton, you can get her clinic. She has 2 clinics. Turns out I was giving away her personal phone number and didn't realize it until she called me and said, would you stop giving away my personal phone number? So if you'll just call the town square there, they'll get you connected to her. And she's like me. She will talk to any one of you and ask questions about your medicine because that's what she's an expert in. And I don't do medicines, but Catherine will help you. Okay. Any of you, Gordon, any of you guys having questions about medicine, she'll be able to help you with.
And I will definitely look up her information and go ahead and include it in the additional resources email. Any final questions, anyone?
Okay, my probation officer's here, so I have to go now. I will see you all later. Gordon, hang in there really hard when you've just retired and it sort of hit you right in the face.
Well,
Everybody,
thank you. I
reach
appreciate
out
it.
to me if you need anything, if I can help you with something. Minerva's got my phone number there. So all of you are doing a great job. Anne, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, Anne. And when it reaches that point, put them in respite care, get a break. Don't go visit every day if they're in care. They don't need it. If you stay too long, the staff will let you do the work you're paying them to do.
Yes.
Take care of yourselves because you have family members who need
Thank
you
you.
to be the survivor. Gordon, James, Steve, your grandchildren need you to survive this. Okay. Number one, grandpas spend more money than grandmas do. They're the biggest spenders of money on grandchildren. grandpas. Grandmothers buy the train engine. Grandpas buy the entire train set and build a room onto the house and make it into a train room. So everybody needs you. Okay. So Peggy, all of you, Cindy, y'all take care of yourselves. And it's okay to say, I can't go today. It's okay. All right. They're not going to know the difference. And as you all know, if something happens, you're going to get a bunch of phone calls. Okay. So you'll be there as soon as it happens. All right. Everybody take care. Use your gratitude journals. Call me if you need me. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye,
Thanks, Dr.
everybody.
Tam. Thanks,
everyone.
Minerva.
And didn't Minerva do a fine job today? Yes, she did.
Absolutely.
We have to tell
Thank-
Glenda.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Minerva.
have a great day, everyone. And
Bye-bye.
hope to see you in the next one.
Okie dokie.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you, Dr.
awesome.
Tam. Thanks,
Bye.
Minerva.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Bye.